Recently, I embarked on what I thought was going to be a fairly difficult platinum trophy, and little did I know this was going to be the hardest platinum trophy that I've ever attempted. Now, Ready or Not was originally released in 2021 strictly on PC, and recently, as you've most likely seen all over TikTok and YouTube Shorts, it was released on consoles. And I will say the recent success of the game is very well deserved, being that it is the perfect game to play with a party of friends. But playing for fun and going for the platinum trophy are two completely different experiences. Now, coming in at an 8 out of 10 difficulty, requiring at least 3 full playthroughs and around 80 hours of gameplay, including 8 buggy trophies and 4 grind trophies, Ready or Not's platinum is rightfully intimidating. But we're going to be breaking this game up into multiple sections, making this journey as organized and easy as possibly can be. So, starting with basic training, we're thrown into the firing range to learn the basics of how the guns work in this game and how all the tactical movement and stuff that we're going to be utilizing for the next 80 hours. Then we head to the situation training where we get to walk through with our SWAT team in an overwhelming amount of controls that might turn some players away, but just stick with it, trust me. But in the midst of the training, we unlock our first trophy for making our first arrest, and then wrapping up this training segment, we get practice makes perfect. And now is where we are let loose into the game for our first playthrough, where we'll unlock a few trophies for just completing all levels with a C+ rating or higher, but most importantly, learn the maps and what works and what doesn't. So leading up to our first mission, you have the ability to really immerse yourself into the game and doing things such as mapping your whole route out, listening to audio recordings of 911 calls, watching security footage, and even reading about each suspect and civilian leading into the mission. And every mission has its own unique set of goals that you'll have to complete in order to beat the mission. Now, first mission, we just go in guns blazing, but there are plenty of different playstyles that you'll see us use throughout this whole journey, which in my opinion is one of the things that makes this game so enjoyable and replayable. But as we kill all the suspects in a very civilized manner and rescue all civilians and collect all evidence, we finish the first mission with an A+ rating, A+, which is actually very solid. But with the Medal of Valor trophy requiring us to S rank every map, we have a long ways to go, but we'll eventually get there. Anyways, we then move on to the second mission, which most of you are probably familiar with from all the clips online, because this is the one where we raid a popular streamer's apartment and make some disgusting discoveries. And for the sake of YouTube's guidelines, we won't get into all of the small details here. So we take out all of his guards, leading us into his room where we have to make sure we arrest him and not kill him, or else we will fail. But we end up arresting the greasy pigs and securing the rest of the evidence from his musty apartment and finishing the mission with an A rating. And now I'm just going to kind of speed through the rest of this first playthrough and then go more in depth to each map when we get to the S ranking playthrough. So we conquer the crackheads in the Breaking Bad level, and during that we unlock arrest warrant for arresting 50 suspects or civilians. Then we pacify the pervert that is George Brixley and put an end to his sick children's talent center. And also, I should mention that after watching this video, I highly recommend you checking out one of the many amazing YouTube videos about the Ready or Not iceberg, because it is truly sickening. Anyways, back to the game, we find ourselves at the first mission that involves traps on the doors, but luckily it's basically just an introduction to traps and it ends up being one of the easiest missions in the game. Then we take a quick coffee break, giving us the Temperance trophy, and right back to the game we put a halt to this hotel that has gone to hell, then all the evil Mindjut employees in a mission that gives straight PTSD to the Doomsday heist in GTA 5, which was somehow much easier than this level. And luckily we get a second to breathe, with the next mission being this beach house with only a few enemies that ends up being one of the easiest and quickest missions in the game. Then we head to Greased Palms, which will unfortunately be the map that you see the most of in this video, but in this first easy playthrough we get a rest for the wicked for arresting 100 suspects or civilians, then die a few times, then get Peeping Tom for using the mirror gun 30 times, then get Click from 3, 4 is binding for picking 20 locks. But we eventually beat the mission, and by my excitement, I think you can safely assume that we spent way too much time on this evil mission. Anyways, we then headed to a birthday party in the hills when we take out a ton of corrupt security guards and arrest another pervert, giving us the Exploited for completing the first group of missions. Then we end up at a community college that I'm not going to show much of because you can probably already assume what happened here, but we defuse 2 bombs within 2 minutes, unlocking Fool Me Once. Next, we go to the Mexico border where we clear a small house and discover a massive close quarters tunnel system underneath, full of enemies, leading to a cave area where we take out the last suspects to unlock the War for completing the second group of missions. Then we equip the battering ram to clear this massive hotel and make some progress to the Here's Johnny trophy. And this leads to the next level, which is another one that I won't be able to show much of, but this time a terrorist group has taken over a nightclub. We swiftly clear them out and unlock Here's Johnny trophy for breaching 20 doors with the battering ram. Next, we conquer a car dealership that is deceivingly large and has a lot more suspects than expected. Then we get to probably my favorite looking mission in the game because the lighting is great and it's just so visually appealing all around. But unfortunately, it's packed full of a masked woman cult that is actually quite terrifying, and their demonic church in the background is even scarier, but luckily we beat the mission pretty quickly. Now, at this point, we have 2 levels remaining in the first playthrough, starting with Relapse, a mission that takes place at a hospital overrun by the same terrorist group from the nightclub. And I'm not sure the exact dimensions, but this map is just way too big in my opinion. So we end up having a bit of trouble with this map, but eventually beating it and unlocking the decaying city for completing the third group of missions. And finally, we have the final mission of the game, which is basically just everything you've learned to be put to the test here. But surprisingly, it only took us a few tries, and beating this final level gave us the abducted trophy for completing the fourth group of missions. And now it is time to target the Medal of Valor trophy for the S ranking playthrough. And we end up doing this entire thing solo. And S ranking every level requires us to arrest all suspects and civilians, collect all evidence, and complete all objectives. So before we start, we put together our full non-lethal loadout and start all the way from the beginning again. And as promised, I'll cover these levels more in depth during this playthrough. Now, starting with the first level, we already have some experience with it and are able to speed through this one very quickly. And a helpful part about playing solo is that you can command your SWAT team to clean up all the evidence on the ground and search for any other loose civilians that you can't find. And doing all that, we get our first S ranking on Thank You Come Again, which is going to go into the effortless tier because it's very tiny, the suspects are horrible, and there are only a few civilians to track down and arrest. Now, for 23 megabytes a second, this map can be tricky for beginners. But once you learn how to use all your deployables and equipment well enough, this one becomes pretty simple, so we're going to throw this into the easy tier. Moving on to the Breaking Bad meth house level, here's where things can get kind of complicated, especially on a first playthrough. But the suspects don't wear any armor and are pretty stupid. But due to the layout and the amount of suspects, we're going to put this mission in the hard tier. For the fourth mission, the Spider, this one gets pretty sketchy with the close quarters in the building. You have to make sure to arrest and not kill George Brixley. But I'm honestly going to throw this one in easy because once you play it just a few times, it's not a challenge anymore. Then we have a Lethal Obsession that is basically just an introduction to traps and only has like 3 suspects, so we're going to put this one in effortless. Now we have Ides of March, or the hotel mission, which is the first mission that really gave me trouble because the suspects are heavily armed and armored, and there's a lot of them. But in the later playthroughs, it wasn't that bad. But all things considered, I feel like this belongs in hard, and for some reason, we got the last group of missions trophy after beating it the second time. Now on to Sinuous Trail, which is basically just a pain, especially when you're trying to S rank it, just due to the amount of suspects and how armed they are. And it's also a very tough area to navigate around, so this is going to be the first mission to go into the very hard tier. Next is End of the Earth, which is basically an oddly comforting mission because it's just a cozy house on a beach with just a few suspects and super easy to speedrun and S rank. Therefore, we're going to throw it in effortless. And now is the one and only Greased Palms. Now, although it's not the last mission in the game, it is by far the hardest mission in my opinion, especially when you're going for S rank or playing on hard difficulty, which we'll get to. Mainly because there are 20 plus suspects, and the way the AI works in this game, you're just getting shot through every single crack and crevice on this map, causing it to be unbelievably rage-inducing. And throughout this entire platinum grind, I probably spent around 10 hours just on this map alone, so this one is going to go all the way up to the trash category. Next, we have Valley of the Dolls, which is honestly wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be to S rank. It's just another one with lots of suspects in very open areas that you can get caught out in. But I think it's only right to put this in very hard. Now for the Elephant, or the college level, is probably the most terrifying level in the game, but luckily it's super easy to S rank and most of your time will be spent tracking down civilians, so this one's going to go in easy. Next, we move on to Rust Belt, which is honestly just one of my favorite missions in the game because I just love the layout and the looks of the map. But it can get tricky towards the end when you reach that final cave fight. But honestly, wasn't too bad to S rank, so we're going to put this in hard. Now for Sins of the Father, this one I never really struggled with, but there are so many suspects and traps and civilians, so it just takes a while. And that makes it very easy to get ahead of yourself and start to make mistakes. So this one's just going to go in the hard tier. Next, we have Neon Tomb, another terrifying mission, and another mission that took me a very long time to S rank because everybody in this map is heavily armed and super unpredictable. And there are just way too many of them. And pro tip, just watch out for the guy with the vest because he will sneak up on you when you least expect it. But taking everything into account, including the horrible lighting and the blasting music, we're going to place this in very hard. And this was actually very close to being up all the way in the top category. Now, Buy Cheap, Buy Twice, or the car dealership, this gave me some trouble trying to S rank because the map is so much bigger than it looks, which obviously means there are a lot more people. And the suspects here do not play around for some reason. But compared to everything else, we're going to place this in hard. And now we have Relapse, which is my second least favorite map in the game. It's basically Greased Palms with walls. This map is massive. There's a million suspects, and they are extremely unpredictable. Oh, I can't shoot him. I can't shoot him. As you can see, I had a hell of a time trying to S rank this, but we eventually got it done. Oh my god, man. That took so long. Which is a huge relief for me, as you can see. And this, without a doubt, is going right next to Greased Palms in trash. Then Carries of the Vine, which is basically just a lot of ground to cover, and the women have some big guns, but they don't have armor, and they're kind of loud and easy to track down. making the S rank very doable, so we're going to put this in hard. And last but not least, we get hide and seek, another visually stunning map that has just about everything all in one. Now, S ranking this map is a lot tougher than just going through and buddy, because there are a ton of super long range lines of sight, but somehow we ended up S ranking this with our literal last bullet with nothing else left in our inventory, finally unlocking the Medal of Valor trophy and finishing the S rank playthrough. Oh, and this map is going to go into very hard. Now we move on to our next playthrough, which gives us 3 trophies and supposed to be the hardest challenge in the entire game, and that is finishing the game on Iron Man mode and not losing a single officer in the process. Now, Iron Man mode means every time you die, your entire save gets deleted. Now, luckily, you can just dashboard every time you die and it won't count, which is what I obviously did for the sake of my own sanity, but I probably died close to 200 times during this playthrough. So if you completed this without dying once, then I just salute you. So basically just doing another S rank playthrough, we unlock the World, the Hermit, and Dress to Impress. Next, we target the I'm Too Old for This trophy for completing all missions on hard difficulty. And as you can see in the top right, hard mode just completely cracks out the AI in every way possible, as if they already weren't good enough. But luckily, we can finally use real weapons and go into every mission guns blazing, and boy did that feel good. Now, I played most of this either solo or duo, but when you get to maps like Greased Palms or Relapse or Neon Tomb, it felt almost impossible to complete with just 2 or 1 person, so we just played with a 5-man squad of complete randoms that we searched from Public Match, and it actually went surprisingly well. And after that long, painful grind, we eventually unlocked I'm Too Old for This. Now, finally, we are at the part of the game that I consider the fun part of the game, because with 16 trophies left, all of them are just fun little goals and situational things that we can do, and we unlock the platinum. So we start off with Who is Pepe Sylvia, where we play all of the secret audio tapes that can be found in A Lethal Obsession. Then we remove our helmet and complete Thank You Come Again for off duty. Next, we get a milestone trophy for commanding our squad to breach 20 doors. Now for Way Out West, we have to complete Rust Belt with only the 357 Magnum and nothing else, which can be very buggy, so be aware of that. Because I mean, you literally can't cuff suspects, you can't pick locks, you can't mirror doors or anything else, or it won't count. But after we very satisfyingly take out all the suspects with the Magnum, we unlock the trophy. Then we get another fun one where we equip the pepper ball rifle and all the gas equipment, and then raid the Breaking Bad meth house to unlock toxic fumes. Then we group the next 2 trophies into one mission by using no weapons and only commanding our squad to complete the mission. And we get By the Book and the Tactician. Next, for what should have been extremely difficult, we have the Hanged Man, where we have to complete the last level hide and seek using only a taser, flashbangs, and bash. Now for our loadout, we basically used all flashbangs, as you can see, and it definitely felt very awkward to rely on your squad and to use flashbangs as basically your primary weapon. So this one might take some luck, but we somehow beat it on our first try and got the trophy. Then we assigned 2 officers with the kicker trait to our squad and kick open a door, unlocking the Door Kicker's trophy. Then we incapacitate a suspect with the C2 charge, unlocking Due Process. And at this point, we have 5 quick trophies remaining in the entire game. So we knock out our next trophy at the same time by arresting a down suspect to only find out that they were faking it, which is really buggy as well. And since we civilian, this gave us the secret command for a SWAT team to kill us, giving us the Devil Trophy. Then we spam our squad to breach doors, unlocking Mahogany Masochist, and unlock each officer trait at least once, unlocking the Emperor. And now with only 1 trophy left in the entire game, it's only right that we have to be killed by a civilian to get the Platinum Trophy. So we head to the Breaking Bad mission, let the civilian kill us, and unlock the Fool, and ultimately unlock the You Were Ready trophy, officially completing Ready or Not. Now in review, currently this is the hardest Platinum I've ever done, but the game is a genuine fun time, especially with a group of friends, and the Platinum took me just about 90 hours to complete.